So that is a Bloodhound missile.
Hello and welcome to ALW Research Team. This is a permission visit to the museum at Royal Air Force Ladbroke. Join us on this two-part series where we explore the entire museum and find many interesting things.
So Dave just pointed out on this large picture there's a rapier system there. And that's an old squadron photo. Judging by the cars, it's 1980s.
Mm-hmm. No Harriers.
No Harriers, Tornado.
So this was after I was here, because we didn't have Tornadoes, we had Jaguars and Harriers.
Yeah, and the avionics and aircraft buffs will be able to tell us what that is on the edge of the Tornado there. The flight lieutenant. Yeah. Please have got that right, or everybody at home would be going, no he's not, he's a such and such. But if you do want to comment, please do. So we're inside the museum at RAF Ladbroke, and this is another section of a Canberra.
Yeah, Canberra. When you get up close them, they aren't really that big, are they?
No.
When you think, you know, this is cockpit area, the amount of people that was in there, it would have been a little bit cramped.
Yeah.
Everybody to know the place and know what they were doing.
Yeah. Is that a meteor?
It could very well be.
And that's a Gloucester Javelin.
Yeah.
So it looked a bit like the Buccaneer at the front.
Yes.
But then they had a delta wing and this big tailplane. They weren't in service with the RAF for very long. They weren't very good, by all accounts. We've got an avionics section from Gloucester Meteor main instrument panel. We've got the two engines. We've got exhaust gas temperature. Exhaust gas temperature there. Slip is your flaps. They called it slip on all the.
Slip and turn indicator.
Slip and turn.
Yeah.
No, they called it droop, didn't they? So that's slip and turn.
Yeah. Well,
Basic avionics, and then your climb and fall indicator. Artificial horizon. I think they called it an RSI or something like that. Compass settings. Altimeter, so that's how high you are, so altitude in feet, airspeed in knots, and then a Mach. So a Mach 1 is the speed of sound. This is the undercarriage system, display system. More Gloucester Meteors there. Canberra. Do you know that person?
no.
No, that is the. That is the cassette we were talking about. That is the reconnaissance cassette from Canberra. It's been unloaded. The camera section was back here, I believe. They had a bomb bay, but they could fit it with reconnaissance equipment. Canberras. These are English Electric, which is now BAE Systems. There's a throttle sections from a Canberra. Fuel, port and starboard engines, and then the throttles.
This would be where they examined the photographs on this light table.
Yes. That could have been in the COC. this is a T4 Canberra, and this is the nose section. These were one of the longest serving aircraft in the Royal Air Force. Diorama there. Dave,
No.
this is what we were looking at earlier, an aircraft hide like that.
Yep.
They're the bank sections, aren't they?
Yep.
They're the bank sections around an aircraft hide. So it was that big because the Canberra wing section was massive. That's why it was a lot larger, and I thought you'd get two GR3s in there. But yeah, they had such a big wing.
There's a Beaufort anti-aircraft gun. So I was on Beaufort on 48 Squadron, and then with the advent of missiles in 1978 we were disbanded because guns were no longer able to hit the aircraft because they were travelling that much faster.
We'll just have a look in the cockpit section of a T4 Canberra aircraft. So this is the pilot's seat here. The flight observer would have been at the back. The flight observer's console is just out of view. So that is where the flight observer would have sat. There's his fold down table and his instruments. The pilot, this is the pilot section. The pilot would have sat in here on this seat. There's his throttles and the port and starboard fuel cut-offs. Control column. The rudder pedals are here and they're adjustable on there. So because this seat doesn't move back and forward like in a car, you move the pedals. Now here's the various instruments within the aircraft. From left to right we've got airspeed indicator in Mach, altimeter, compass, airspeed, horizontal, horizon, there, compass, fuel pressure, no correction there, oxygen levels, because he had a bottled liquid oxygen, they call it LOX, and that's the LOX levels. Starter switches, engine switches, moving across, these are radio controls. We've got oxygen system here, left and right, oxygen systems. Then we've got engine RPM, engine exhaust temperatures, because these are a twin engine aircraft, port and starboard fuel pressures, fuel tanks, then we've got cabin air pressure, temperature, brake pressure, hydraulic pressure and a standby airspeed, flaps control there, flaps and undercarriage were controlled from over there, and then we had a standby set here, rudder pedals, throttles, and there would have been another control column here, but it's been removed for access for filming. And that is the nose cone of a Canberra T4. Over along here we've got Harrier GR7, the Tornado, and the Tornado, we've got Chinooks and Harriers. This is one of the aircraft hides at the back of the airfield. GR7A. We've got one of the mock aircraft hides there. Just over here is a rapier system, what Dave used to work on. There's a rapier system. Scorpion tank. And an Exploring Dave.
Hello, I'm exploring.
We've got more modern sort of Gulf War era uniform there. Various avionic equipment, pilot's watch, charts, navigational systems. Got a Tornado there, Panavia Tornado. There's a Tornado there in Gulf War beige. So the Tornadoes went to the Gulf War dropping laser guided bombs in Operation Desert Storm, and the laser guiding system was fitted to the Buccaneers, so the Buccaneers lit the target and the Tornadoes dropped the bomb on it. And this is the nose section of Hawker Siddeley or Blackburn, which later became Hawker Siddeley Buccaneer. So we'll have a look at that now. This was a S2 Buccaneer because it's got the oval intakes for the Rolls-Royce Spey. The original Buccaneer, the S1, had Gryon Junior engines, and they were said to be underpowered by pilots who flew them. So in here we've got the Martin Baker ejection seat, you know, in the ejection handles, but it has got the pin in, and that is the cockpit of the Buccaneer. Just put the lights on. I'll go down the stairs a little, I'm too high. So in here, these had a central control stick to the control column that went into the cockpit. It didn't go into the floor like in most aircraft. Got artificial horizon there, compass, altimeter, all your engine stuff's down here, which I can't see because I'm outside of the aircraft. These are landing aids, that's part of your head-up display. The throttles were there, that's the throttle. Your flap switches and things, flaps indicator, tail flap, your flaps were there, and the air brake was there, angle of attack's over here, moving further left. The bomb bay door switch is down there. Sorry, this is a struggle. The throttles on the Buccaneer were right down here. Correction, the fuel shut-off cocks were right down in that corner. I don't know if you can see that. The two fuel shut-off cocks for the Spey engines. Your bombing system was done by the pilot. The pilot dropped the bombs, and it was done on these selector switches down here. Now, over this side, let's move you around. Over this side, just try and get you in. It's very difficult to operate a camera in an aircraft. Down here, this section was cabin temperature, navigation lights, your fuel system, all the warning system was there, the autopilot, and the fuel level and transfer system was here, coming into shot now. The fuel gauges were the vertical indicators there. Wings fold switch was over this side somewhere. Your wings fold was there, and the ground brake system was over up there, and that is the cockpit of a Buccaneer S2. The flight observer, the only part of the fuel system the flight observer had was the fuel transfer switch, which is down in there. There's a switch down there to transfer fuel from the external fuel tanks to the internal fuel tanks. And then he's got the radar system, the bombing radar system, and he would have carried out the navigational duties for the pilot. Now, this internal cockpit was added after an incident at what was Royal Air Force Home on Spalding Moor. And British Aerospace utilised Home on Spalding Moor for testing of the Buccaneers in the 1950s up until the mid-1980s. Now, there was a ground incident where the Buccaneer S1 had an engine failure, and this was added as a result of the Air Accident Investigation Board due to the compromisation of the pilot cockpit, could have saved the navigator, but the flight observer was also killed in the incident. But they said if there was a separation screen, it would have stopped it. Now, when the main cockpit is closed, that seals against there, so the observer's area could be on fire, or the pilot's cockpit could be on fire, and they are total. There's a bulkhead to stop any debris or fire coming through to each person. Now, there was a firefighter on station, and he assisted at the air accident when the Gryan Junior engine failed, and his name was Ken Strawn. So moving down now, we've got a pilot in a Martin Baker ejection seat, and that is the dinghy that he would have stayed in if he'd gone into the sea. The Saint Squadron that was on the Tornadoes. I've got a flight suit here, pilot in a flight suit. That's a Mark 9 Martin Baker ejection seat, as fitted to Harriers. This is one of the dinghies that are part of the ejection system. These are Martin Baker test photos. Interestingly, all Martin Baker seats were tested and developed in the spare seat of a Canberra. So the Canberra was remotely controlled flight, and they used to test ejection seats from it. That's how they developed the ejection seat. So in here, this is inside of where the front of the Spey engine would have been here, where the compressor would have been, the LP compressor. And this is the back of the bulkhead. So this is it. A lot of the Royal Navy Buccaneers, or the Hawker Siddeley Buccaneers, started off with the Royal Navy, and later when the Royal Navy disbanded their aircraft carriers, Ark Royal Hermes and Eagle, the Buccaneers transferred to the Royal Air Force. Interestingly, the Royal Air Force didn't want the Buccaneer. They wanted the TSR-2, but that programme was cancelled, and they ended up with the Buccaneer. Now that there, BGA, trying to read that, that's BGA 341, that is a British Aerospace Brough inspection stamp. It was completed in December 1966, and that is its inspection stamp there, BGA 341. So this started life as a Buccaneer Mark II, because a lot of the S1s were sent back to British Aerospace and remade into S2s. That's a fond farewell to the Buccaneers. Blackburn aircraft.
Hello.
Hello.
Just seen here, look. Joe McAllister.
Your friend?
He was our squadron armourer. He was pipe major in the pipe and drum band. It was a volunteer band. Jim McAllister, he was a sergeant on the 26th Squadron.
Yeah.
Him at the back, he was
Yeah.
a pipe major. So, and I started to learn to play the bagpipes on 26th Squadron. I joined the pipe and drum band for a short period while I was here.
Wow. So this was in the war years?
Yeah. Looks like it was a German Air Force base during the war by the looks of it.
Yes. And then that is a B-17, I believe. Ah, I've had a bit of a mishap here.
Oh dear.
Bit of a mishap. And these are Typhoons here. The Typhoons were one of the most successful fighter bomber aircraft that the Royal Air Force had in the Second World War, and none were saved. There isn't a surviving example of a Royal Air Force Typhoon from the Second World War. They all got scrapped. They were an excellent fighter bomber aircraft, and that looks like one of the rockets that they could fire, because the Spitfire couldn't carry a payload like this, but the Typhoons could carry 8 rockets, and they had 50 cal machine guns. This is Operation Varsity, which we will cover at some point when we go to the Netherlands. These are the gliders that they used. And those were the aircraft that pulled them. There's a tow rope still sticking out the end of the aircraft, if you can see that. The tail section of an aircraft there. Just one of your Bofors, Dave?
Yeah, this brings back memories. I haven't seen one of these for a while. Sadly, the seat's missing. You had a 4-man crew on it, a 1, a 2, a 3 and a 4. Number 1 operated the fire pedal. Amazingly, these fired 4 rounds per second. You could operate them by hand,
Yeah.
or you could plug them in, and they had hydraulics, and they could be operated by one man in the number 1 seat. He could operate the elevation and traverse and fire the weapon, and then you would have 2 ammunition numbers. The number 3 stood in this ring here, and he was in charge of the fire selector switch. He could the fire selector switch was basically a safety catch. Sadly, the original barrel is missing off of this one. I'm guessing that's to make it safe as a museum piece.
So it's not a live weapon.
But these wheels, if you squeeze these 2 together, there's 2 pins come out.
Yep.
And then you release a catch, and you start to lift the airframe, and the wheels over rotate, and then you open this hatch here, which is the bearing, and you can take the wheels off, and the Bofors sits on its 4 legs.
Yeah.
And then you can level them.
Yeah, so you can level it up to fire.
This chute is where the empty cartridges used to come out. After the gun was fired, they used to come out of that chute.
Yeah, so they go boom, fall out, go down that chute and come round here. And then somebody would presumably pick that up and...
He used to pick them up, yeah, and then take it home for a souvenir.
The 40mm L70 Bofors AB gun was used by the Royal Air Force from the Second World War until 1978. Join us next week as we discover more at this wonderful museum in Germany. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share. Check out our Instagram and Facebook pages. Bye bye for now.
Looking over my shoulder, looking back at your door.